Hello and welcome to News Central Television. My name is Mazino Pil. The top stories at this hour. 6 soldiers killed, others missing after ISWAP raid in Borno State. And court rejects former CBN Governor Godwin Emefiele's objection in $4.5 billion, 2.8 billion naira allocation case. And U.S. declares genocide in Sudan, sanctions RSF leader. Details coming up now. Let's begin with security matters. The Defense Headquarters has confirmed that 6 soldiers were killed during a raid by the Islamic State Boko Haram group on a military base in Borno State. Now, in a statement, the DHQ said while 34 terrorists were neutralized and 23 AK-47 rifles were recovered, 6 personnel lost their lives in the operation. However, 2 military sources claimed that fighters from the Islamic State West Africa province launched a pre-dawn attack on Sunday using trucks and motorcycles on the base in Sabongari, Damboa district. The insurgents reportedly set fire to the base in army vehicles. Troops recovered over 200 rounds of 7.62mm special ammunition during the operation. Now, still on security issues, following Governor Seyi Makinde's warning on Monday regarding the increasing influx of bandits into Oyo State, security agencies across the southwest have intensified efforts to address the threat. Key measures include heightened border patrols and strengthened collaboration between the police, Amotekun, and military forces in the region. On Tuesday evening, security chiefs in Oyo State held an emergency meeting to formulate new strategies. Attendees reportedly included representatives from the military, police, civil defense corps, and Governor Makinde's security aides. Makinde issued the warning during the 2025 Interfaith Service, assuring citizens that the state government is fully committed to rooting out and eradicating the bandits. Security matters. Now, the Nigeria Police Force says that over 750 persons were arrested in 2024 for alleged cybercrime, as it recovered about $3.2 billion, which has been returned to the victims. The force's public relations officer, while reeling out the achievements of the Police Cybercrime Center for the previous year, says that over $115,000 in various bank accounts and cryptocurrency wallets were also frozen. News Central's Idong Joseph has more on this story.
To combat crime in 2024, the police reported that over 8 billion naira were recovered, which include more than 1 billion naira recovered on behalf of the Enugu state government.
I recovered a sum of 8,821,1,881 naira 80 kobo, and of course 84,000 US dollars and 115 to 37.91 USDT, that is cryptocurrency. In case of Enugu, we recovered more than 1 billion naira from a procurement fraud.
While the recovered funds, according to the police, have been handed over to the respective victims, it adds that several arrests and recoveries were also made throughout the year.
In 2024, the Nigerian Police Force National Cybercrime Center coordinated and executed several high-profile operations, leading to the dismantle of about 5,049 malicious domains and networks and major cybercrime syndicates operating within and beyond Nigeria's borders.
In another case, the police apprehended 4 suspected internet fraudsters who specialize in compromising business emails to defraud companies, divert funds, and hack WhatsApp accounts to extort money from unsuspecting victims.
The suspects, upon their arrest, have confessed to their roles in perpetrating the crime, and efforts are ongoing to recover the money fraudulently obtained. These are the people. They hacked into somebody's WhatsApp.
The police are urging citizens to cultivate a culture of cyber awareness and promote responsible online behavior. Citizens are also being tasked to remain vigilant and exercise caution when sharing sensitive information online. In Abuja for News Central, I am Idong Joseph.
Now, no fewer than 18 persons have been reportedly killed in coordinated attacks across several communities in the Orsu local government area of Imo State on Sunday. The killings occurred in at least 6 communities. Victims were left with deep machete wounds, sparking fears and outrage among locals. A former chairman of the Nigerian Human Rights Commission, Professor Chidi Odinkalu, who hails from Orsu, brought attention to the development via his X account on Monday. The tragedy followed the annual masquerade festival celebrated in Umuhu, Amauku, Amibi, and also neighboring communities. The Nigerian police force says that it has arrested 60-year-old Idris Usman in connection with the alleged trafficking of 59 male children who were found being transported from Kano to Nasarawa State. The FCT Commissioner of Police, Olatunji Disu, while parading the suspect at the Abuja Police Command, says that the children, aged between 4 and 12 years old, were being transported in a white Peugeot J5 bus under the guise of being taken for training. He added that the suspect, the vehicle, and all the children are currently in police custody.
Preliminary investigations revealed that the children, who came from different families, were being transported by one Idris Usman, a male resident of Nasarawa State. He traveled to Kano State to convey the children en route Nasarawa State under the pretext, or according to him, for training them. This incident has been classified as a case of suspected child abuse and trafficking, given the circumstances and the absence of proper documentation or parental consent for the movement of the minors.
Now, an Ikeja Special Offense Court has dismissed the plea application filed by the former governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Godwin Emefiele, challenging its jurisdiction to hear the $4.5 billion and 2.8 billion naira fraud case brought by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. Delivering the ruling on Wednesday, Justice Rahman Ushodi held that the court had jurisdiction over counts 8 to 26, citing relevant legal authorities and evidence presented in the case file. But the court struck out counts 1 to 4, which centered on abuse, noting that such actions were not punishable under Nigerian law. The judge subsequently adjourned the trial to February 24, 2025 for continuation. And now we go on a break. And when we get back, Edo State Governor alleges suspended local government's chairman remitted over 12 billion naira to PDP leaders. We have the details when we get back. Join us again. Welcome back. Now, Edo State Governor Senator Monday Okporola has revealed that the 18 suspended local government chairmen allegedly remitted over 12 billion naira to leaders of the People's Democratic Party, the PDP, within 15 months under questionable circumstances. The governor made this disclosure while addressing acting chairmen and councillors from the 18 local government areas during a courtesy visit to the government house in Benin City. Governor Okporola explained that upon assuming office, he reviewed financial records presented by the Accountant General and discovered questionable expenditure. He noted that multiple attempts to get the suspended chairman to account for the suspension, or rather the spending, were unsuccessful, leading to their suspension. Now, to discuss this, we're joined by legal practitioner Elvis Asia. Elvis, you're welcome. Thank you very much for joining us this evening. Elvis, this latest revelation by the governor is it's a serious one. I mean, so what's the next step to be taken, do you think? Should we be looking at criminal proceedings, or what exactly?
Well, I think the first thing is that we cannot take this allegation on face value. We all know that the governor is out to get the local chairman out. And so you can come up with any story to achieve that. Of course, if indeed these chairmen are guilty of these allegations, there are appropriate process for doing so. The governor mentioned that he had written a letter to the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. That's the appropriate step to take, rather than engaging in democratic actions that have thrown the state into chaos. If you feel that anybody, for that matter, whether the local government chairman or the staff or an officer or even the government, or even the government himself, there are appropriate channels for redress. The government chairman do not have any form of immunity at all under any law in the country. And so you can easily get the security agencies to investigate any allegations like this and take appropriate steps. But the worry and the concern is that these figures are always branded about by successive governors to achieve their aim, which is to emasculate the government system, which is to have the chairman in their pockets, and with a view to having unrestricted access to the funds of local government. That's the problem. Because if it is true what the government is saying, then he should have taken appropriate steps rather than carrying out taking democratic actions in connivance with some members of the House of Assembly, and currently what's happening with fictitious people masquerading as councillors impeaching the chairman. The appropriate steps should be taken, which is
So Elvis,
don't forget that
what you're saying, Elvis, you're saying that this is just a political move then. It's just kind of like what we see in other states. Like in the past, we've seen how governors take these steps simply just to consolidate a hold on power, like in Rivers State, like what we saw. Are you saying that this is the same?
It is clearly a political move, to get the government. I mean, it's just give a dog a bad name, to hang it. Yes, I'm not saying that there's no corruption in the government's administration in the country, because we have seen that there is no governance at the grassroots level, and some people are, pocketing the funds of the government. And the truth about that is that it is the governors across the country that have been doing it. And that is why the Supreme Court in the last year came up with that decision to try to, give financial autonomy to local government so that they can, reach the people that they are meant to reach, which is the grassroots. And so don't forget that a few years ago, the former governor of the state also came up with some stories, like similar stories like this. And he also said they are listing the EFCC, and then the question you ask yourself is, what has come out of it? So in most cases, you find that these stories like this are carried about, but the ulterior motive essentially is political. And so the government wants these guys out by all means, and I do not believe any bit of what he's saying.
Okay then.
If indeed there are clear cases of malfeasance and corruption, get the security agencies to do a proper investigation. And if you want to them impeached, follow appropriate procedures.
So you say procedure.
You have to.
You say procedure and investigation is very important. So, as a lawyer, and I know you tried to do this in your first submission, can you please explain to us the due process that should have been followed very clearly, please?
I mean, for one, the governor indicated that he has written the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. That's it. Let the EFCC investigate. Have they investigated? Have they come up with a report to verify these allegations? The answer is no. Now, under the local government law in Edo State, if you want to impeach a local government chairman, there are procedures. One of which is that you have to have a committee set up by the councillors to investigate, and that takes a process. It takes a while.
Unfortunately, I think we might have lost the connection there with Elvis. Hopefully, we can get him back. Unfortunately, we can't. We'll have to move on, but we'll bring you that discussion during a later bulletin, perhaps. I hear that we have Elvis back. Elvis, if you're back, you were in the process of explaining to us due process. You were telling us that first off, investigation has to be carried out by the EFCC.
I was explaining
Yes.
that. Exactly. I was explaining that when allegations, serious allegations like this are made, you know, the proper thing is to get security agencies to investigate it. And once you have a report of those investigations, appropriate prosecutions are carried out against the chairman. These guys do not have any form of immunity, so they can be charged to court, they can be sentenced, they can be convicted, they can be sentenced if the allegations are established. And then, on the basis of a report, carried out under the appropriate law, that is local law of those states, you can get the councillors to set up a committee, they investigate. Once the allegations are established by that committee, and then the councillors can go through the process of impeachment, which will require a certain number of councillors. You know, I understand it's 2/3 majority of the houses. In this case, we are seeing instances where one councillor or two councillors, or even in a particular case, unknown persons masquerading as councillors are impeaching local government chairman. This is not the process. This is not the appropriate practice, and we cannot endorse processes like this under the guise of a wide allegation such as what the governor has made.
Now, at a time like this, when there is the push for local government autonomy, how do you read this whole episode in Edo in light of the renewed efforts by the president to help the local government get autonomy?
What is happening in Edo is very simple. Before now, what the governors used to do is that once they come in like this, they will dissolve the government and appoint stooges as either councillors or whatever, as caretaker committee or whatever they choose to call it. And that way they will have unrestrained access to the funds of the local government. But with the Supreme Court decisions, which is to the effect that you can only have access to allocation when you have a democratically elected local councils. The current government in those states is having that challenge, and so which is why they're doing all of this. Initially, they tried to suspend them using the House of Assembly. That process has been set aside by the court. Now they have resorted to this gross undemocratic action of using a few or no councillors to try to impeach the chairman. This is what is playing out. This is politicians coming up with another strategy to defeat the whole purpose of the Supreme Court decision, the whole purpose of giving autonomy to the government chairman. That's exactly what is playing out. This is nothing but politics and nothing else. And it's very sad that despite the commendable attempt that was made by the APC-led government to get the Supreme Court to interpret the Constitution in a very salutary manner, we are seeing a gross, a desecration of violation of, the whole purpose of that decision.
Well, Mr. Elvis Assi, I want to say thank you very much for giving us your time and giving us your expert opinion about the issues in Edo State. Thank you. Now, moving on. Justice Emeka Nwete has delivered a landmark ruling directing the Nigeria Immigration Service to pay 3 million naira in general damages to Benita Ezumezu for losses incurred due to her inability to travel for professional engagements. The Federal High Court held that the failure to issue Ezumezu's passport 14 weeks after fulfilling all requirements, including biometric enrollment on 6 October 2022, violated Section 94 of the Immigration Act 2015 and infringed upon her right to freedom of movement. The court ordered the immediate issuance of her passport and awarded damages, marking a significant case that recognizes a passport as an official identity document and establishes delays beyond 6 weeks as a legal breach. The precedent empowers applicants to seek redress for undue delays in passport processing, potentially reshaping the accountability of the Immigration Service. Language is a fundamental element of culture, reflecting one's heritage. Now, in Igbo land, the preference for the English language over Igbo has become a major concern, sparking conversations on how to reverse this trend and better preserve the culture. News Central's Chinwe Ogele attended a recent event where stakeholders shared their thoughts on the way forward.
Standard International Secondary School.
So, come on, here na like when I'm not in school, can like
I like drawing.
This is how many children in the southeast speak the Igbo language today. These women gathered under the auspices of the Igbo Women Assembly share a common goal to protect and promote the Igbo culture. Professor Nkechi Haike in her presentation emphasized that the hope of preserving the Igbo language lies in ensuring the younger generation can communicate fluently in their indigenous tongue. The national president of the Igbo Women Assembly, Nneka Chimezie, and the events chairman, Godson Asamoah, called for collective efforts to address this challenge.
Language a language for trade. All our professors, I develop when we compete like other languages of the world.
Culture Igbo, value Igbo, Asusu Igbo, na Alaze Alawa. I na so.
Other speakers at the event stressed the need for state governments in the southeast to enforce their policies on Igbo language education in schools. At the forum held by the Igbo Women Assembly in Umuahia to inaugurate the Abia chapter, a former commissioner for women affairs in Abia State, Chinedu Brown, encouraged women to form cooperative societies to support cultural preservation.
Igbo Women Assembly
Parents also acknowledged their crucial role in ensuring their children understand and use the Igbo language regularly.
If we even speak to the children in English, in Igbo, they will reply in English. It's wrong. So parents should choose their children from the crowd to learn to speak Igbo.
The Igbo language is undoubtedly under threat as the younger generation, entrusted with the task of carrying forward the Igbo heritage, struggles to communicate fluently in their native tongue. In Umuahia for News Central, I am Chinwe Ugele.
West African Examinations Council has announced the significant change to its examination policies, allowing candidates to receipt failed subjects within a shorter time frame. This development is expected to bring much-needed relief to thousands of students across the region. News Central's Bettina Nweli reports.
African Examinations Council, commonly known as WAEC, has officially introduced a receipt option for candidates who fail one or more subjects in the senior school certificate examination. Under the new policy, receipts will be offered twice a year for course subjects such as mathematics and English, which are prerequisites for most tertiary admissions. Candidates can retake their failed subjects in the next available examination cycle without waiting an entire year. The receipt exams will follow a simplified format, focusing on reduced syllabus that addresses key areas of difficulty.
It will help students. It won't waste their time of like failing a particular course, just a single course, and I have to sit at home for an extra whole year to not start reciting everything at the same time.
It's really nice because they'll be able to read ahead of those papers, read well and prepare well for those papers so they can come out well at their next sitting of the exams.
It's a good idea because I could remember when I did my own, I had E in my English language. So the following year, I now repeated the full subjects, which is very stressful. But the question is, are we going to pay the money, the full money for the registration, or we are paying for the particular subject that we fail?
Some critics, however, have raised concerns about maintaining the integrity and rigor of the receipt examinations. WAEC has assured stakeholders that stringent measures will be implemented to uphold examination standards.
Forget WAEC is the bedrock for you to even progress in anything you want to do, whether your first degree, locally, internationally. So when you give the room for people to go back and readdress some of those issues, it will close the gap for you having more people to go into tertiary institution, knowing the importance of education for the growth of our economy.
As WAEC prepares to roll out this initiative, its implementation and the potential impact on students' academic progression will be closely watched. In Lagos, for News Central, I am Bettina Nwili.
Now, as Nigeria continues to look at ways to harness the numerous potentials of its maritime sector, experts have advocated sustainable practices to ensure the long-term health and productivity of its blue economy. Nigeria needs to take seriously the issues of policies and stringent regulations that support environmental protection, economic efficiency, and social responsibility, among others, which industry experts believe will shape 2025. Now, News Central's maritime correspondent Nyoma Obiaswalo has more.
The Nigerian maritime sector stands at a critical juncture in 2025. With its potential to boost economic growth, foster trade, and create jobs, the sector requires urgent and focused policy attention. Key issues, if addressed expeditiously, could help unlock the sector's potential and position Nigeria as a dominant maritime hub in Africa. The Minister of Marine and Blue Economy, Adegboyega Oyetola, and heads of maritime agencies must adopt a result-oriented approach to governance in achieving the expected growth in critical areas such as renewal of the expired port concession agreements, growing concern of safety on the inland waterways, supporting indigenous ship owners to compete globally, addressing dilapidated and failing port infrastructure, deploying scanning machines to facilitate trade, and releasing the marine and blue economy policy direction. This year, 2025, once again presents this opportunity for Nigeria to move away from a mono economy and fully diversify.
Without us having this issue of currency resolved, even if you have the waterways dredged, you have the equipment in place, if you don't have the import, it's still a problem. So if that has been taken care of, then we can now start talking about the fact that what is government, how prepared is government on other criteria. It is important for federal government to renew concessionary agreement. I am of the opinion, however, that you need to review the concessionary agreement. Terminal A, has it fared well? Terminal B, have you done well? If you have not added value to our imports or to cargo operations, I'm of the opinion that your contract should not be renewed.
Stakeholders are expectant that the ministry will exercise its authority and move from words to taking decisive action to unlock the sector's full potential and establish Nigeria as a global maritime powerhouse. In Lagos, for News Central, I'm Norma Obiaswalo.
Now, coming up, U.S. declares genocide in Sudan, sanctions RSF leader. We'll have the details after the break. Join us again. Welcome back. Now, the United States has accused Sudan's Rapid Support Forces and allied militia groups of committing genocide, citing widespread atrocities against civilians, effectively imposing sanctions on RSF leader Mohammed Daglo, also known as Hemeti. The sanctions freeze any U.S. assets belonging to Daglo and bar him from entering the United States. 7 RSF-owned companies in the United Arab Emirates and 1 individual were also sanctioned for procuring weapons for the paramilitary group. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said the leader of the RSF has repeatedly broken commitments to protect Sudanese civilians, including those made in the 2023 Jeddah Declaration and the 2024 Code of Conduct. Chad's President Mahamat Idris Deby has accused Emmanuel Macron of being in the wrong era following the French president's comment that African nations forgot to appreciate his country's military deployment in the Sahel to combat Islamist insurgencies. France began its military operation in Mali and the Sahel in 2013, targeting insurgent groups. However, its military presence in Africa is being reconfigured after being expelled from Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger, all governed by juntas hostile to Paris. Senegal and Côte d'Ivoire have also requested the withdrawal of French military bases from their territories.
Je voudrais exprimer mon indignation vis-à-vis des propos tenus récemment par le président Macron qui frise les mépris envers l'Afrique et les Africains. Je crois qu'il se trompe d'époque. Ce qui concerne le Tchad, la décision de mettre fin à l'accord de coopération militaire avec la France est entièrement une décision souveraine du Tchad. Cela ne souffre d'aucune ambiguïté.
Still ahead, European Union leaders caution U.S. President-elect Donald Trump over border threats. We have the details after the break. Join us again then. Welcome back. France and Germany have issued a stern warning to U.S. President-elect Donald Trump, cautioning him against threatening sovereign borders. Trump sparked alarm after refusing to rule out military action to take control of Greenland and autonomous Danish territory. French Foreign Minister Jean-Noël Barrot emphasized that the EU will not permit other nations to attack its sovereign borders. German government spokesman Stefan Hebenstreit reiterated that borders must not be moved by force. I beg your pardon. Now, the warnings come as Trump's comments coincide with a private visit by his son Donald Trump Jr. to Greenland. The EU leaders are urging calm but emphasizing the need for strengthening military capabilities.
On peut traduire par une forme d'impérialisme qui se matérialise à la fois concrètement sur des déclarations comme celle de M. Trump, qui sont des déclarations sur du physique, l'annexation de territoires entiers, et puis aussi de façon numérique, j'allais dire, par le fait par la force numérique d'un certain nombre d'opérateurs mondiaux, qu'ils soient d'ailleurs américains, chinois ou autres, d'ordonner la pensée et d'orienter.
Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez has strongly condemned Elon Musk, accusing him of openly attacking institutions and stirring up hatred. Musk, set to join U.S. President-elect Donald Trump's administration, has sparked outrage in Europe with his attacks on leaders like German Chancellor Olaf Scholz and UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer. Sanchez criticized Musk for heading an international reactionary movement supporting far-right ideologies and promoting hatred. Specifically, Musk has backed the extreme right alternative for German AfD ahead of the country's snap elections on February 23rd. Musk's controversial statements have also included calling for the removal of UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer and advocating the release of far-right activist Tommy Robinson from jail.
Y la internacional reaccionaria, como lo dijo el presidente Macron hace escasos días, o la internacional ultraderechista que venimos denunciando desde hace años también en España, liderada en este caso por el hombre más rico del planeta, ataca abiertamente a nuestras instituciones, azuza el odio y llama abiertamente a apoyar a los herederos del nazismo en Alemania en las próximas elecciones que va a tener el principal país económico de Europa. Los valores y los regímenes autocráticos están avanzando. De hecho, los regímenes autocráticos están avanzando en medio mundo, como quien dice. El fascismo que creímos dejar atrás es ya la tercera fuerza política en Europa. Y no hace falta ser de una determinada ideología, ni de izquierdas, ni de centro, ni de derechas, para mirar con tristeza, con enorme tristeza, y también con terror, los años oscuros del franquismo y temer que ese retroceso se repita.
Business now preparing for retirement in Nigeria involves establishing clear objectives, understanding pension schemes and systems such as the contributory pension scheme and evaluating one's financial health through net worth assessment. Retirees should anticipate expenses while consistently saving in reliable investments like real estate. It's essential to build an emergency fund, update estate plans with wills or trusts, and nurture non-financial aspects such as social connections and hobbies. Staying informed about economic trends, currency values, and also government policies is crucial for retirees to effectively adapt to changing financial conditions. Iyang Sami Orube, founder of the Bloombox platform, joined us on Business Edge to discuss these topics and explore how potential retirees can set their retirement goals.
Because that will then inform what you need to put aside towards it. And in all of this, you do have to have a budget. I would suggest that you use a pension calculator or a retirement calculator to calculate what is likely to be your financial needs when you retire. So towards that, you have to start early. The conversation for retirement for me should start very early in career, because then you have a long time horizon to plan. That is the best place to start. And that way you can kickstart your financial preparation. With law of compounding of interest, you are able to do pretty well by the time you retire. So yes, it's important to set very clear goals. You should have a pension manager, and I assume that if you are in employment in the formal sector, you are under the contributory pension scheme, in which case you do have money set aside for you every month towards your retirement. But it's good to have at the back of your mind what is likely to be your financial needs when you retire. So most of the pension fund administrators have what we call the pension calculator on their website. It would be helpful to go there, plug in your figures, your number of years, and it gives you an idea of what you're likely to need at the time you retire. So you then know whether you're on the right track, because if you are contributing just under the CP as a contributory pension scheme and you have an RSC, there are opportunities to do more. You have the additional voluntary contribution, and if you're in the formal sector, of course, there's a micro pension scheme available to you.
Now, sports. English Premier League side West Ham have sacked manager Jurgen Lopetegui after just 6 months in charge. Now, the 58-year-old former Wolves boss was appointed in May following the departure of David Moyes, but officially took charge on the 1st of July. The Hammers won just 6 Premier League games during the Spaniards' tenure. Saturday's 4-1 defeat by Manchester City was a 9th loss in 20 league games this season and left the club 14th, 7 points above the relegation zone. The Blues have held talks with former Chelsea and Brighton boss Graham Potter about succeeding Lopetegui, initially on a short-term deal. Former AC Milan boss Paulo Francesca and also ex-Paris Saint-Germain manager Christophe Gatlier, currently in charge of Saudi Pro League club Al Duhail, have also been approached by West Ham. An IBF Cruiserweight World Champion Jai Opataya defended his title with a brutal 4th-round knockout over David Nyika in Australia, as he won. In arguably the... Apologies, a bit of technical issues there. We'll start that over again. IBF Cruiserweight World Champion Jai Opataya defended his title with a brutal 4th-round knockout win over David Nkia in Australia. Now, in arguably the biggest fight in trans-Tasman history, the 29-year-old Australian and home favourite floored New Zealander Nyika with an uppercut at the Gold Coast Convention and Exhibition Centre in Queensland. And unsteady Nyika rose to his feet with just over a minute to go in round 4. But Opataya unleashed another onslaught before a thunderous highlight reel left hook ended the fight. The challenger required medical treatment on the canvas before walking out of the arena to applause from 6,000 sellout crowd. Afterwards, Opataya called for a unification bout against Mexico's WBA and WBO champion Gilberto Ramirez, while promoter Eddie Hearn suggested Opataya could move up to heavyweight to face world champion Alexander Usyk within 18 months. And that's all the news this hour. But before we go, let's take another look at some of the major stories. 6 soldiers have been killed and others missing after a SWAT raid in Borno State. And court has rejected former CBN Governor Godwin Emefiele's objection in $4.5 billion and 2.8 billion naira allocation case. U.S. has declared genocide in Sudan, sanctioned the RSF leader. Now, do remember you can watch News Central live on DSTV, Channel 422 Star Times, Channel 274 Able TV, and of course on YouTube. Many thanks for watching. My name is Mazino Appeal.